Welcome to Let's Talk Business Phoenix, the Greater Phoenix Chamber's podcast. I'm your host, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. Each week, we tackle key issues affecting businesses, the community, and state, aiming to drive growth and overcome challenges while uniting community leaders to move Phoenix forward.
Let's Talk Business Phoenix was produced in partnership with Ideas Collide, an agency offering a full suite of custom marketing solutions for your brand's unique challenges. Make a connection at ideascollide.com.
Welcome back to the podcast. We are thrilled to have Latasha Causey, who's the president of Phoenix Raceway, with us. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always glad to be here with you and with the chamber. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Well, maybe just start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something that we wouldn't necessarily see on your bio that would be interesting for our listeners.
Is that what we're starting with? Oh, I love that. Well, yes, I'm born and raised here in Phoenix, so Phoenix native.
So that's rare.
That is rare. I'm like a unicorn, right? Born and raised here, spent most of my life in the West Valley. And so, worked in multiple financial services. Obviously, you and I have known each other for a long time. And from my time at USAA is where we spent the most time together. But recently, with almost 2 years ago now, actually, the time has truly flown. I took on the role of the president of the Phoenix Raceway. Truly have been having an absolute blast. I mean, the things that we are able to do and accomplish at the Raceway have just been phenomenal. And to be honest, I feel super blessed and lucky to have gotten it where I did. I mean, Julie Giese was the previous track president and just left it already in such a great space. So for me, I just really had to come in and put my little sparkle on that. But
it does feel like yesterday.
It literally it does feel like yesterday.
Like you're newly minted, but you're not.
Yeah, I am. Newly, but not. But yeah, no, it has been great, and it's been a wonderful thing. So that's a little bit about me in regards to me professionally and who I am. But if there's something that is not on my bio, right, that most people don't know, I played in the band. I played the flute, which I like to say when people you have this vibe of what you think a person is that's been in the band. And I always like to say I was the coolest band person. So I was in the marching band, I was in the chorus band, all of it. So it was fun.
That is very cool. And yes, I had no idea you did that.
Yeah.
Can you still play?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't played it in a long time, but probably.
All right. Okay.
It needs to be tuned a little bit, probably. And my parents still have the flute. It's still there. That thing was expensive. So
I'm sure mom and dad.
Yeah, they kept that.
That's right. Well, if they're listening, thank you.
Yes, agreed.
Well, you mentioned I would work together before, and we had at USA, and I think you have a really interesting career. Tell us a little bit about that professional journey that led to this current position.
Absolutely. Well, it's so funny. I, as I was at USAA, doing some phenomenal work there, really a great organization at USAA. When I started at USAA, there were 500 employees. And when I left almost 14 years later, there were 5,000 employees. Obviously, the mass of USAA, what they do for military members and their family members. And so for me, to even be able to be a part of that was just an amazing thing. And when I left USAA, I then was working at Bell Bank. Bell Bank was a new community bank here in the market. They are also just very phenomenal individuals. And great members doing wonderful work and also doing wonderful community work. They are a community bank. It's in the heart and soul of who they are. And while I was at Bell Bank is when I actually got the phone call for Phoenix Raceway. But as I back up just a little bit, Julie Giese, who, as I mentioned already, she's the president of the Raceway. She had moved here. When she moved here, she and I were on a women's panel together with the Phoenix Business Journal, actually. And so we're on a women's panel together. She'd maybe been in Phoenix for 1 week. She moved from Daytona. Ray Shea called from the Business Journal, said, hey, there's this new woman taking on the Raceway and she needs friends, she needs women like you that can help her with community connections. And, Todd, I'm like, hey, if it's coming from Ray, so it has to be somebody good. But then also I told Ray, hey, as long as she's a good person, of course, I'm happy to help her. Julie is a phenomenal person. We became very quick friends. And honestly, I was just helping her with what she was trying to accomplish, which was truly be be able to invite people into the raceway and really do some great work. At that time, she was going to renovate Phoenix Raceway. In 2018, Phoenix Raceway worked with Oakland Construction, if you will, took the whole thing down and redid the whole thing.
And it's amazing.
It is.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, it's
it really
phenomenal.
is.
It's phenomenal. But that's Julie. Julie did all of that in coordination with the team that we have. Still, most of those team members are still there. And so to be able to help her with her story, I was honestly just going to races to support her. I'd never been to a NASCAR race until Julie invited me, even though NASCAR is essentially in my parents' backyard. My parents still live in the same house that, I was born and raised in. And because of Julie is the reason I got into NASCAR. And so I went to my first NASCAR race. Now it's been about 6 years ago. And there is nothing like a NASCAR race. And the experience that I had, all of that. And I never in a million years, though, that I think that I would get that phone call to take on the opportunity to be the president of the raceway. That definitely wasn't on my bucket list.
So you're at Bell Bank doing your thing, doing good work out there, and you get a call?
Yes. So here's the real story. And I tell this story. So Julie and I, because we were friends, Julie and I, if you will, let's call it a Thursday night, right? So on Thursday night, Julie comes over, we have dinner and we hang out. We had a great time. She had been traveling a ton, which is not unusual for her and not unusual for NASCAR. But sometimes you're just like, something is like, I know you want to say something, but I'm not sure what it is, but she didn't say a word, right? Didn't say one word. So then Monday, an article comes out that Julie Giese is moving to Chicago to take on the Chicago Street Race. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So before I could call her, she had already called me. And she's like, okay, first of all, I'm so sorry. I did not get a chance to tell you before the article came out. So can we get past that? And second of all, would you please consider the opportunity to take on the president of the raceway? And I mean, I was trying in my mind to figure out every reason to say no in that quick moment, because I'm like, what? Like, why would I do that? And I'm not the, I went through all the reasons in about 6 seconds about like maybe why I'm not the right person. But then when she's like, can you please just like take a moment to think about it, do not answer me. And so we really went through a real process. And of course I prayed about it, talked to my husband about it. And, really, I almost shut the door on an opportunity before I even, because for people like us, I mean, I'm always thinking of like, well, maybe it's not me, but I have a massive network. Surely I could provide you with the opportunity for someone else. But I will tell you, Todd, it has been the best decision that I have made in my career. I mean, why not me? And, you don't have to have a background clearly in NASCAR in order to be successful or in sports. In general, I've never been in sports, a diehard sports person, but never worked in the business of sports, but certainly worked in the business world for over the last 20 years. And to be able to take on this opportunity has just been a really great thing.
Well, and you are very humble, but I'm still going to ask this question. Looking back now, knowing, because now, you get it. What made you the right person?
Yeah, I think that there are a variety of things. One, the direction that NASCAR is looking to go in regards to broader community perspectives, right? And so really making sure that there are leaders who are in the market, who know the market, who understand the market, have the relationships. That's probably one of my biggest assets, is the fact of, my network and just the people that I'm able to bring, if you will, to the raceway, not just from a NASCAR perspective of being a consumer to come to a NASCAR race, but much bigger than that. Obviously, you all have participated at the raceway by hosting your board of directors meeting there right when I started, which I always say thank you for that, because again, that's just a pillar. You brought huge business leaders to our location that then has since brought other business to the raceway. And so that's probably one of the main reasons. But then as well, I've been a leader for a very long time. And so really being able to provide my unique leadership, skill, style, all of those types of things from a business is business. When you know how to run business, you could figure that out, the rest out. But also you have to have a really great team. And I mentioned this earlier. Julie had a phenomenal team in place. I've added a few people to that great team. But, we don't do any of this alone. It doesn't happen unless our team is there. And so it's been all of those factors that has made me not only the right person, but successful thus far in that role.
Well, and having worked with some of your team, you're correct. They are really good. And certainly the instinct was correct. And the raceway is doing better than ever. You mentioned leadership, and I want to get into that a little bit. How do you define leadership for yourself?
Yeah, there are, multiple things. I mean, I think you mentioned already in regards to being humble. I always talk about me being a servant leader. I think a lot of that came from my time as well at USAA. It's just morphed me into who I am. I will never, ever put my team in a situation to where I wouldn't support them or that I wouldn't do a job that they are currently doing as well. I know that sounds cliche, but I mean, I think anybody that I've had that has reported to me would vouch for that. But also at the same time, I really love to see things and see skill sets in individuals that they maybe don't see in themselves.
It's fun, huh?
Yeah, it's like one of the best things, but it also just is so fulfilling when you just see them thrive. Honestly, Todd, even if they are, they've done all they can do when they're working for you and then they go on then to their next thing, that's even better, right? Even though sometimes you hate to lose them where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do without you, right? But at the same time, you maintain those relationships. You're like, oh, look what you are doing. This is a phenomenal thing. So, I mean, I think I would define leadership in all of those ways is really just trying to figure out a way to push people to be the best versions of themselves and who they can be. I create an environment of authenticity. I allow people to show up as who they are every day. But you know me well enough to know I also love to have fun. And so, if people aren't able to have a good time, we spend so much time at work. And if we're not able to have a good time in our environment, then what's the purpose of people being there every day?
No, absolutely. And I think that's the key to keeping the right team together and knowing when to let them go for their own benefit.
That's right.
So I have here, what are your proudest moment? But I'd like to ask, what's the most memorable moment you've had in your now 2 years? Yeah,
there have been so many, but I would tell you, one of my most memorable moments in the beginning of when I started. So again, Julie just being a great mentor that she is, she took the time to take me on the road. So for me, in order for me to learn the sport, I had to get out there, right? And so my first year, the first half of my first year, I was probably on the road more than I was at home. Our season is February to November, so we're racing every weekend.
That's a long
right?
season, yeah.
So you were racing every weekend. So there's a lot of opportunities to get out there, meet the teams, do all those types of things. And one of my first meetings was at Hendrick Motorsports. None other than with Jeff Gordon and the entire team. Of course, there were multiple other people there, but Jeff Gordon led that meeting. And to be able to be sitting there with someone like a Jeff Gordon who now had transitioned to a owner and is just in a totally different perspective, right? You have both sides. You have, as a race car driver, you have that knowledge, but then as well, you have the knowledge of him and being in a business space. And so also with that, so I built that relationship with Jeff, his team. He took the time to do that. I mean, well over an hour, spending time just helping me understand the sport, but he continues to check in, continues to just be a really huge advocate. That for me has probably been one of the biggest things. When you're in the corporate world, a lot of times it's all about competition. And while you're in sports, you would think that would be the same thing. But we all know that in order for our sport to be successful and to continue to thrive, we all have to help and support each other. So there is no competition amongst each other, right? Whether you're a driver, whether you're a team owner, whether you're another track president, you're at a different track, we're all there to help each other be super successful for the sport of NASCAR. So Jeff Gordon has probably been one of my most memorable things within my 2 years.
Well, and it occurs to me that you all have very similar leadership styles.
Yes.
Right? This idea of servant leadership.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that someone like Jeff Gordon is actually a good guy.
He is a great guy. I get text messages as soon as I, when it's race week, and even beyond that, right? I mean, we do a lot of this, right? We do a lot of these, and NASCAR obviously is national, and so he'll hear me like on Sirius XM or on anything, right? And he's like texting me like, "I heard your interview today; it was so good," and you're just like, "Oh, that's so sweet."
That's very cool.
Yeah, so it's just super cool. Or when it's race time, not just Jeff, but multiple drivers and teams are reaching out like, "Hey, thinking of you this weekend. If you need anything, let me know." Whereas it should be vice versa. You guys are coming to my home, if you will. And I'm like, "Hey, if you guys need anything while you're here, please let me know." But it's just one big like happy family. Again, while I've worked for multiple phenomenal organizations and still have great relationships with all those organizations, it's just something different about this environment and everyone just collectively working together.
It's tremendous. You mentioned the big, I shouldn't say remodel because it's much more than that, but we basically started from scratch again. Maybe a little bit of the history of the raceway. I mean, to your point, you grew up here. I'm sure that you knew you've heard about that ever since you were probably a little kid, but it's really part of our DNA.
That's exactly right. So we actually celebrate 60 years this year. Is that crazy? We're having our 60th year birthday party. So 60 years of Phoenix Raceway. It's historic. It's been around for a very long time. NASCAR, it became a NASCAR-owned track, around the 2019 timeframe. And so all of us at Phoenix Raceway work for NASCAR, if you will. And so, at that time is when NASCAR said, you know what, it's time. We were going to celebrate 60 years soon. It is time to renovate and really be a continued pillar within the Valley, right? We wanted to make sure that people are able to leverage and use the raceway for not just racing. And so while we have our two signature events each year, March and November, having championship weekend here, we also wanted to be able to host other events and do other things at the raceway. So now, we've had a multi-year partnership to do concerts like with Relentless Beats, and we do electronic music concerts. We had Foodie Land out there this year, multiple food trucks. And so that renovation allowed us to have the opportunity to host multiple events throughout the year. We'll have proms coming up next year as well.
That's a great prom location.
Yeah, I mean, it is a phenomenal prom location. I'll let you know. I'll send you the photos afterwards of how it goes. But I mean, we have multiple high schools that are doing their prom there in 2025, and we're super, super excited about that. So again, being able to create something new, and it's multi-use, meaning that we have almost 700 acres of land out there, so you can build. It's buildable, but we also have something that's stationary as well, right? Where you guys, you hosted, you were inside of our Ally Curve, which hosts almost 300 people, right? So there's just multiple things, and then we have the barn, which is like our conference center as well, which is where we're going to host a luncheon coming up here really, really soon. So again, that's what that renovation did, and that's what that renovation provided for us, is really the opportunity to have really great racing, hosting our fans. So in March, we have about 60,000 fans that come through. And then because we host championship, we have over 140,000 fans that are coming through race weekend. And so we want to make sure that they feel really good about being at a facility like Phoenix Raceway.
Well, it really is just a state-of-the-art facility. No matter when you're there, right? We were there for our board retreat, and it's spectacular. So it really is a community asset. To that point, this is a business podcast. Yeah. So let's talk economic impact of the track.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we originally we were planning to only have championship in Phoenix for 3 years, if you will. We are now, this is year 5. We've already announced that we're going to do it again in 2025 as well. And so when you talk about the economic impact of the raceway, our race fans come in the Monday before a race, and then they leave the Monday after a race. And so, we create a whole city out at the raceway with our campers. So our campers are coming in on Mondays. And so when our campers come in, while we have, if you will, about 5,500 camping spots, that ultimately equates to over 20,000 campers that are staying there for a whole week. We've created a partnership as well with local vendors such as Walmart. Walmart has a grocery store that we have out there, and they're able, and it's the local to the West Valley that are able to.
So it's our Walmart.
That's our Walmart, right? That's able to do that. But bigger than that, some of the other things that we do is we've started to do partnerships as well. So, when we're here in March, we have spring training that is going on as well. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that, even though our races are from Friday to Sunday, again, our campers are here all week. We know that spring training is going on. So we work together to create ticket packages and all those types of things so that people are then going out into the community. We also are launching this year as well. It's not a secret, but we're launching a guide, an Arizona market guide. So that when people are here, like our favorite restaurants, like what's happening, what's close, but not just what's in the city of Avondale, which we love our partnership with the city of Avondale. That people want to explore the Valley, even if they want to run to Sedona really quick, or if they want to stay here local, Tucson South, whatever they want to do. We have a guide that provides them with things that say, here's what you want to do, and here are the things that you should be doing to reinvest back into our community here in the market. So we want to do our part of not just taking, right? We want to give. We know that in March, about 60% of our population is traveling in. And then the same for November as well. They're coming from all over the place. So we want to make sure that we show off the Valley. And I love showing off the Valley.
Absolutely. And contributing not just to your point in Avondale, but
right.
the whole Valley, and sounds like the rest of the state as well.
Yes, that's exactly right. We are really, really, really intentional about partnering holistically across the Valley with local. I mean, we have multiple partners at the Raceway, but as well, like this year, we have a Huss Brewing partnership as well. Streets of New York is local. And so we have multiple vendors and partners that we have that are local, but then as well, we have our, premier partners and things like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is just a phenomenal partner. You have Toyotas, all of our operating, individuals that help us as well, both locally and nationally.
Well, since we're talking impact, obviously you have neighbors.
Yeah.
And, clearly NASCAR is not a quiet sport.
That's right.
But it seems like you have a really good relationship with the city and your neighbors. How do you accomplish that?
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what, if not for the city of Avondale and the relationship that we have with them, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. We've had that relationship forever. And if you've been to Avondale lately, it has grown, which is a really good thing. So, while the Raceway has been there for 60 years, a lot of those houses have not been there for 60 years. And so we do try to communicate, make sure that our neighbors are aware. Yes, we do offer tickets as well to make sure that they come. I mean, it's just something that we do. I mean, it's being neighborly, right? It's the right thing to do. So yes, we do offer. It's not a bribe. It's just to tell them that we want them to come. We want them to come hang out.
That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, no, it's a good deal, right? For our neighbors to be able to come and enjoy. And as well, we want to make sure that they, we have like signage. We do everything that we can so that they know something's coming. But we're also really respectful as well in terms of timing, all of that kind of stuff. And because we have so much land, we also try to position things to make sure like, hey, let's not, blast out the neighbors for this concert or whatever it is that we're having. But we've been super successful for years, and our neighbors have been very neighborly with us. And again, that we attribute all of that to the city of Avondale, the support that they provide to us, and just everything that they've done.
Well, it shows the importance of having a city government that's responsive, that understands
yes,
pro-business, that pro neighbor, and makes the whole thing work.
Yes, 100%.
So, I think one of the things that struck me when we were there is technology.
Yes.
It's, I guess I didn't expect the level of technology. How are you leveraging technology to enhance the experience for folks going out there?
Well, if you don't enhance the technology, for people aren't going to have a good experience, right? That is just the nature of where we are. That's just the nature of where we are in our environment holistically, right? You have an app for everything. And so we do as well, right? Making sure that we have our own Phoenix Raceway app. And that starts before our folks even get there, right? We have a campers app specifically to our campers. They want to know what's happening because, of course, we have activities for them going on all throughout the week. But then if you're just coming for the race Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, we have an app for you as well. So leveraging all those types of things. But then as well, when it comes to food and beverage, we have technology that we're utilizing and leveraging with our Levy partner as well, making sure that you don't have to stand in, hopefully you don't have to stand in the line too long so that you can get your food, all those types of things. But, we also have other things across the track so that we can control things like traffic, right? We can see and leverage what's happening from a traffic perspective. So if we need to shift and do something differently, we could try to alleviate some of those traffic issues, right? That we're having, or if we're having them. So again, technology is just a part of absolutely everything that we do at the Raceway, but it also helps us with sales as well. So from a geo perspective, we know who's coming to the races. And so, we know if it's your first time or if you've been there a million times. So being able to really engage and interact with our fans as well.
And that's, I think, such a tremendous advantage. And I think for all businesses. But when I think about this, so, obviously all of us feel like we somehow have a part of the Raceway. It feels like it's part of us. When I was in Indy, I went and did the tour, and the bricks are still there. And, tradition is kind of important in racing.
100%.
And obviously, you've seen a lot of change there. You're going to continue to make change. How do you balance that, especially with people who feel like, hey, this is mine, don't change it?
Yes, that is a great question because, you want to make sure that there's something for everyone. When you talk about including everyone, like you said NASCAR and racing is generational, right? People have been coming since they were kids, right? And they pass it down to their kids, and then they keep going, right, to their grandkids. It just keeps going, right? And so, like you said, you want to be able to come to the raceway, whatever raceway it is, and you want to be able to like have certain things. One thing for us that we have and that we've had forever is hillside, right? Mm-hmm. Hillside is that mountain that we have on the side, and people bring your own things, right? You bring your own seat, you bring your own everything. There's just certain things like that, right, that you have to make sure that you maintain, while at the same time, you also want to maintain, even for those people, they want to see new things. They want to see different things as well. And so you have to integrate, some old and some new to keep people coming and to keep people entertained.
Well, and I think that's really going to be the key going forward. And to your point, there's some things that are sacrosanct and you just can't touch them.
That's right.
And obviously you're sort of building around that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So clearly you have a lot of vision. Where do you see the raceway in 5 or 10 years? What can we expect?
Yeah, well, I'd say let's talk about I can't believe like the things that we've done just in the last 2 years, right? I mean, just the ability to be able to invite people into the raceway has been amazing. It's also been super humbling for me, the amount of people that just want to support and just want to know, like, why are you there? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do I support you? And so for people to just be able to come into the raceway and see it, when you come, you're blown away, right? And so it starts with that and with that baseline. And so that was one of the first things that I wanted to accomplish is how do I let the rest of the folks in to the raceway? How do we make it not a secret? And so how do we get out there? So that has been the first thing. And just in this short time has been one of the best things that people know now about the raceway. It's been phenomenal. But also, how do we do our part in giving back to the community as well? I told you earlier that I had not gone to the raceway until I was an adult, yet lived right down the street. I really wanted the opportunity to let kids into the raceway as well. I mean, that coming into the raceway doesn't mean that you just are a race car driver. Clearly, there are other roles and opportunities within the raceway. And so we really wanted to provide that and open that up. So we created a field trip program just in the last 2 years. And we've taken already over 200 kids through that field trip program. It's called Beyond the Finish Line. I'm partnered with my really good friend, Larry Fitzgerald, and the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation, who he has also been a huge supporter of the raceway, of me, of NASCAR. And so together, collectively, we have been able to do things like that to provide for kids, free field trip program for Title I kids. They come in, they have a STEM curriculum that they do, and they tour the raceway. And I always love to hear from the kids. They're like, oh my, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, right? Which has been phenomenal, but also engaging those community aspects in with our fans. We partnered with United Way, and we were able to bring a volunteer program out to the raceway during race weekend. And honestly, Ty, when I first did it, I was like, are people going to want to actually volunteer and build, hunger packs for people to take home over the weekend? And, obviously United Way came out, did everything we did. They had those packs done in less than 30 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing this again. So
they don't mess around.
They do not mess around, but there was like a line outside. We also partnered again with the Larry Fitzgerald Foundation and brought mobile mammograms to the first time in NASCAR history that any track has bought a mobile mammogram on site. We sent it out to the campers, and within probably 2 hours, all the spots were full. And I'm like, oh no, we did something wrong. We probably sent it to the wrong group. I don't know. Something might have went wrong. Who's signing up that quickly for these mobile mammograms? Sure enough, it was our campers. I was able to go in there and take one as well. There were 4 other women in there. And while I was in there, of those 4 women, 2 of them had never in their lifetime had a mammogram, right? Adult women who would never have a mammogram. Just imagine like what life you can save in that moment.
Probably did.
Right. You just never know. Right. And so to be able to do, as I talk about the next 5 to 10 years, just those little things that we have done will result in some massive things over the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, we want to continue to grow the business. We want to continue to have a massive impact on our market here in Arizona. We want to continue to bring people to the raceway for NASCAR races and beyond. I also, I have this goal, I have this vision that one day we will have some massive, like a mini Coachella at the raceway. It's the perfect spot.
It is.
It's a perfect spot for something like that. So I continue to throw it out there just in case somebody hears that and picks that up and they know that, hey, we want to do it. Yeah, we want to do it. But within the next 5 to 10 years, being able to bring some signature type of events outside of NASCAR and outside of racing to the track, because the track is open all year. And so we know it gets really hot in the summer, but we have really good weather outside of that, right? We have plenty of time.
Once your tires are sticky in the summer, you're not going to go off the track.
That's it. That's exactly it. This past March was our first time we brought a Viva La Fiesta zone to the raceway, where we're really celebrating our Hispanic culture. And, when I was there, and I have a suite that I have where I host multiple people. And when I went into the suite, it was a lot of people's first time ever coming to a race. I'm like, oh my God, when I walked in, I saw the Viva La Fiesta zone, and they were so excited about that. The partnerships that we created with the lowrider company called Sophisticated Few, and just things like that, to be able to have a small impact of people like that feeling part of something as massive as NASCAR. For me, I'm already fulfilled. And so I just can't imagine how much bigger we're going to make it in the next 5 to 10 years.
Creating that space for people to feel like they can take part too, it makes a big difference. And then they get there like, wait, this is pretty cool.
Right. It's a pretty cool thing.
As far as the infrastructure, any other changes, or are we kind of built out?
I feel like we're, you never know. But I feel like right now we're built out, right? I mean, like I said, Julie did such a phenomenal job in working. We're still technically kind of new, right? 2018, all the time is flying. 2018 wasn't that long ago. I don't think that we're going to add or build anything massive, to our infrastructure. Now, if something happens and we have a Coachella and we need to build like an amphitheater or something like that, maybe. But, right now our plan is to remain as it is, so that we continue to be flexible, right? And build, temporary space as we need it.
Excellent. Well, we got to go out there, and we actually got to be on the track a little bit. Have you had a chance to? Have you gone around the track?
Of course, all the time. Oh. It's so crazy. When I'm out there, I like to take a lot of phone calls from the track. I drive, but listen, I'm working because I drive the track to make sure it's clean, make sure things are good, right? You have to check that out. And sometimes I'm driving around like, this can't be real. Like, who gets to do this every day, right? To drive around, take a conference call while you're driving around the track.
I'm pretty jealous right now.
Yeah, it's a good place. Hey, if you ever need a break from, call me. I'll drive you around the track.
I would like that. I'm sure you'd be very good at that.
Yes, I'm good at it.
I did have a chance way back when, before I think NASCAR owned it, there was an experience out there on the Andretti experience.
Yeah.
I got in, and I was there was a 2-seater.
Yep.
And I got in, and we did a warm-up lap, and then we did a for real lap. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this guy recognizes that he can go fast with me, and we're hitting the limits. So we come back into the pits, and I'm like, hey, were we really close to the limits? Because I'm pretty sure the guy's like, no.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it was a little embarrassing.
Well, it's, the incline and all of that. You could be going 40 miles per hour, and you feel like you're going 100, right?
I felt like a hero.
Yeah.
I was probably in third gear. It was a little embarrassing.
I love that. Well, you mentioned the experience. We still have the NASCAR racing experience, and so it comes a couple of times per year. I mentioned we have our kickoff luncheon coming up here pretty soon, and that's part of that package, if you will.
So what do you tell us a little bit about that? Because I might want to have my wife hear this.
Yes. So from a NASCAR racing experience perspective, basically it's exactly what you just said. You have professionals that are out there. It's 2-seater car, and they take you for multiple laps around the track. Of course, you do have the actual option as well to drive yourself. Yes. So they have to train you. You go through like a 45-minute to an hour training, and then there is someone in the car obviously with you as well, so that you do not harm yourself. But you got to be as safe as possible. But we do bring that experience. Like I said, usually about 3 to 4 times per year. It's always here during our race weekends, and then we do it outside of that as well. And if you check out the Phoenix Raceway website, it is there, and you do want to sign up for those experiences because they are super cool, very, very memorable. A lot of people provide them as gifts, for birthdays and things like that. So if your wife is listening.
Also advice to have someone drive you home, because you feel like you're Mario Andretti, and you shouldn't drive like that when you leave.
That is very true.
You feel very skilled.
You can only drive like that on the track.
That's the problem. So yes. Well, excellent. Well, thank you for not only for spending the time with us, which is really valuable, but also for everything you're doing for the community, for making sure that something that is a part of our DNA is continuing to grow and to flourish, and you're bringing new people into the sport.
Well, thank you for that. And I appreciate you so much for having me here, and as well just of your support of the Raceway as well. So thank you for telling our story.
You bet. Now we're going to do a quick lightning round since we are going fast. And I promise this is easy, but given that you had so many cool jobs, we're going to start. What was your first job?
I actually worked at Charles Schwab as my first job.
Like before professional?
No, that's my first job. 16 years. So when people say, did you work at restaurants? No, I don't. I just never did. I worked at Charles Schwab. That was my job.
What did you do?
I was an administrative assistant in HR, a school to careers program through Trevor Brown High School. I was one of the kids selected. Charles Schwab was
That's one of our schools, Trevor Brown.
Yes,
excellent to hear.
Yes.
And what did you learn?
Oh my gosh, I learned so many things. Actually, I worked at Schwab from high school all the way through my undergraduate of college, so 7 years at Charles Schwab. So that truly is the foundation of who I am in my career. That's where I learned networking. Honestly, is there at Charles Schwab.
So NASCAR should send a thank you note
Yes.
to Charles Schwab. All right, since you talked Coachella,
Yep.
first concert.
Oh, I don't know what my first concert was. It could have been.
It was probably back in the Compton Terrace.
Yeah, I mean, hold on a second. I think that my first concert, I don't know. The one that's like the most memorable, the first one I remember, I don't even know if you remember this group, but they're called The Boys.
No.
Me and my really good friend, that's the first concert I remember, The Boys.
Okay.
Kind of like a New Kids on the Block, but they were black.
Right. Well, heck, I mean, I'm going to look them up.
Look them up.
All right. I'm sure they're probably on Spotify. We'll take a look. All right. Since obviously NASCAR. Okay. What was your first car?
Oh, my first car was a Kia Sophia.
Kia. Oh, yes. I remember those.
Kia
All right.
Sophia.
All right. And now I think I know the answer. Favorite driver?
Oh, my favorite driver. You know I'm not really supposed to answer that.
We won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I'm not really supposed to. I already mentioned Jeff Gordon as
Yes.
being one of my favorite human beings. But if we're talking favorite current drivers, there's so many. I always support Bubba though. Bubba Wallace is one that I always support.
All right. Excellent. Well, we won't tell anybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
On that bombshell, we will end the podcast, and hopefully we'll see you again real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.